Mr. MWANGI, it's a great pleasure having you today. Good evening.
Good evening to you too. It is also my pleasure having you today.
Thank you so much. Without wasting too much time, as you know very well that we are AMANI Voices, and we do nothing other than, sustaining a peace conversation across the country, and especially this time when we are heading into an electioneering period. So it's a privilege for us to have you this evening. And maybe just to set off, what is your perspective about peace, and especially in this country?
Thank you, Edward, for that question. When we talk concerning the issue of peace, and especially in Kenya, I think it is probably the most important subject that any Kenyan can talk about, because peace is what sustains this country together. Peace is what enables every Kenyan to wake up in the morning, go and work. Peace is what enables our children go to school. Basically, peace is what holds this country together. And from history, we have seen that absence of peace, even for a week, a month or two, the effects have been devastating throughout the whole country. We saw what happened in the year 2007, what has happened in 92, and it is a dark moment in our country's history. And it is good to note that Kenyans have decided in the past, and that is still the position, that we want to maintain peace as a country, regardless of anything. Peace is the most important thing that we can hold dear to ourselves. And also thank you to Kenyans, including yourselves, who've taken the initiative to have Kenyans talk about peace and remind ourselves what peace means for us.
Thank you so much, sir. Speaking of the previous elections, whereby we've experienced a circle of conflict and violence, in your opinion, what really precipitated that kind of conflict? What was the cause of that conflict?
I would say the primary reason for the conflict was irresponsible politics on the part of our politicians and other influential people in our society, whereby politicians decide that they have to clinch power at all cost. And it is that kind of politicking that drove us to that dark position as a country. And since then, there have been efforts, both by the government as well as other stakeholders, to ensure that how we politic as a country, how we do our things is regulated. And probably that is why there was need to establish the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. And basically, since then, I can say that there has been a lot of improvement. There are fewer instances of politicians engaging in hate speech, and I can say that we are moving in the right direction.
Now, speaking of responsible and irresponsible politics,
Yes.
What will you consider responsible politics, and on the flip side, what will you consider as irresponsible politics?
I will begin by what is irresponsible politics. Irresponsible politics is politics that is not based on any agenda. Politics that is not based on a solid foundation of ideas, development, what we call our national ethos. Irresponsible politics is politics merely for the sake of getting power, and politics that is driven by hate of another community, and politics whereby a person thinks that for them to rise, then they have to bring another person down. And we do understand that politics is competitive. Politics has winners and losers. But the good thing is that that is the nature of a democracy. And Kenya being a democracy, then anybody who's in politics has to understand that you can either win or lose. And winning or losing does not mean that we stop coexisting amongst ourselves as brothers and sisters, because the person who wins is expected to lead even those who did not vote for him. And therefore, basically, irresponsible politics would be politics outside values. What I would call responsible politics is politics that has an agenda that was presented to the people agreed with that agenda, and once a person gets into office, you implement the agenda that you told the people you are going to do for them. Responsible politics is politics that is based on the rule of law, whereby the politicians, the governors, as well as those who are governed, abide to the rule of law. There is nobody who is above the law. Responsible politics is politics whereby leaders shun away from corruption, which has bedeviled this country for a long time. And it is good to see that in principle, our politicians agree and abide to what is responsible politics. Our clarion call is that even after elections, the position remains the same.
Thank you so much, sir. You really put it well. Still on this subject of politicians and politicking, what message, because the clock is ticking, we just left with slightly a year to the next election, actually the next general election. What message would you pass to our current leaders, those who are aspiring to be leaders, and every other person who will be participating in this election, either being elected or just a voter? What message will you have to them as far as the maintenance of peace is concerned?
The first question that any politician or aspiring politician needs to ask themselves is, why do you aspire to be a leader? And if the reason as to why you aspire to be a leader is not in line with what is in the best interest of the people, then you have your priorities wrong. Any person who aspires to be a leader, any person who is a leader and will seek to maintain the position in which they were elected into, must at all times act in a manner that is of best interest to the people. And the first thing will be peace. You cannot lead a country that is at war. It's actually quite interesting that we are having this convention right now at the backdrop of what has just happened in Afghanistan, whereby withdrawal of troops has already caused a lot of worry among the people, and you've seen most of them are fleeing the country. And basically, when you have a population that is not has no confidence in the leadership that is there, then there ceases to be any form of governance in that country. And therefore, for there to be governance, for you to be a leader and to lead, you can only lead over a peaceful society. And therefore, before anything, before you can even purport to implement your manifesto or implement your agenda, there must be peace. There must be harmony. People within the country, within the locality that you govern, must be able to coexist. They must be able to appreciate the leadership that is there, and to hope and that those leaders are going to implement that which is in their best interest. And therefore, it is incumbent upon all politicians, including those who will lose the elections, to maintain peace, because elections come and go, this country remains. As a matter of fact, even we ourselves will live, and we will have to leave this country for our children and those who come after us. And therefore, it is in our best interest to ensure that this country remains governable, this country remains peaceful, so that even after the general elections in August, we can continue living and coexisting peacefully among ourselves for the prosperity of not only the current generation, but also the future generation.
Thank you so much, sir. That is quite elaborate. Most times when violence and conflict erupt in this country, and that is after every other election, you usually see the youth on the forefront. They are actually they're like the foot soldiers of their respective politicians. This is a fact we've seen. We saw it in 2007. Even in 2013, we saw it in some areas. There is no politician that's actually going to fight another person. It's basically the youth who are being used to, used by politicians to achieve their agenda. Now, I'd like you to pass a message to all the youth in this country on how they should conduct themselves, on why it's important for them to maintain peace, even as they participate in this electoral process.
Yeah, the youth in this country have come a long way. The current crop of young people in Kenya are educated. I've seen that they are enlightened, they are able to understand issues, and they have learned from the past. It is not in the interest of young people to be misused or abused by politicians. And the youth in Kenya currently now, they constitute the bulk of the population. And therefore, if we are to quantify those who have everything to gain or lose, depending on whether there is peace or not, it is the young people. The young people are at a point whereby you are working to safeguard your livelihood for yourself and for your young family, to safeguard your future, so that when you grow old, you will be able to retire peacefully. And therefore, it is in the best interest of young people to ensure that they own the peace. Peace is not a preserve of politicians. Peace is not a preserve of a particular group of people. You have to own it yourself, because you understand how important it is to you. And therefore, it is our clarion call, and it is the desire of everyone in the country that the youth will rise up to the occasion to demand from their politicians, as well as any other person who may want to incite them to violence and to break down of peace and law, in order to demand that this time around they will not make wrong decisions. They will not choose to be misused by politicians, because when violence erupts and when we see people dying and being killed, these are the old, they are the parents of the youth. It is their sisters, it is their brothers, it is their grandparents who suffer the most. And therefore, our young people are actually, I could say that they are the custodians of peace in the society. If they refuse to be incited to violence, then there is no other group of people that can cause violence in the society. Absence consent from the youth. Therefore, if the youth refuse to be misused, then the country can be guaranteed that there will be peace.
That's correct.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Even as we draw to our close this evening, I like you as an individual. I know you're an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, but now you as a citizen of this country, I'd like you to, if possible, you make a pledge for peace in your own words, that you're going to stand for peace and you're gonna stand for whatever brings peace in this country.
Yes, the elections are coming. They are slightly, or rather they actually are more or less a year away. We are going to go for elections. It is our democratic right to vote. And it is everyone's democratic right to vote for whichever leader they want. And the leader that you think is best for you, then you are entitled to vote for that leader. What we are saying is that we must come to a position where we tolerate each other's opinion and difference in opinion. If I do not agree with the leader that you think is best, you also have to allow me to exercise my choice of whichever person I think will suit me best. The most important thing is that after casting your vote, you go home and wait for the results. The person who will be the most popular person will win. And once they win, then we have to give them the support.
It's a democracy.
Yes. And when their term comes to an end, we will be able to evaluate them. If they will have performed, then Kenyans will decide. If they will not, then Kenyans will choose another leader. But the most important thing is to ensure that we do not disintegrate to violence because you do not agree with another person's opinion, yet that person is entitled to their own opinion. And therefore, with those remarks, I myself as Mundia MWANGI pledge to preach peace in my family, in my community, throughout the country, and most importantly, to ensure that I am a custodian of the peace and to ensure that peace is not a subject in this country, but rather peace is the state of being in this country. And therefore, I pledge to maintain peace. I pledge to preach peace throughout the country, and I also urge you to do the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can promise you will do the same. That I can guarantee you.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
It was nice having you. Let us hold each other's hands, even as we try to sustain this conversation of peace across the country.
Yes.
Because as you've put it, actually, peace is the most important thing. That it is at the center of governance of this country. And you've well explained that. So thank you so much, sir, once again for your time. Yeah, I hope we'll do this another time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.